Friars Club of New York.
For 52 years, this English Renaissance-style mansion with its majestic marble foyer, spiral staircase, stained glass windows, and wood-paneled member-named rooms has been a resting and jesting spot for some of the biggest names in show business, from Frank, Shirley and Dean, Lucy, Jerry Stiller, Kevin James, Billy Crystal, Woody Allen, Milton Berle and Louis Armstrong, Alan King, Drew Carey, and it's a treasured hangout of our guest, Joy Behar, the comedian and TV star of ABC's The View. Joy came to the Friars Club to have lunch in the Frank Sinatra dining room with other comedians, Jim David, Todd and Adam Stone, winners of Last Comic Standing, and Louis Black. After a little stroll around the club, checking out the member photos.
Well, the Rat Pack, I grew up at the Rat Pack. You know, my family, well, they were Italian. Come on, it's like some people had Franklin Roosevelt in their family. We had these. I like Whoopi very much. She's very warm and she's real and she's lovely.
We headed to the Milton Berle room for a chat.
So what do you love about the club, Joy?
The Friars Club.
The Friars Club.
I always feel like I'm always welcome here.
Yeah.
It's like a home for comedians. You know, when I'm really old and I won't have any friends.
Oh, you'll have friends? Come on, I'll be your friend.
I'll always have friends at the Friars.
So here we are in the Milton Berle room. You remember Uncle Milty?
You know, I have a very good story about Uncle Milty because I got my job on The View because of Uncle Milty.
Because of Milty?
Somebody called me up in what year is this now?
We're in 2008.
Okay,
9,
well, 11 and a half years ago.
Yeah.
I got a call from this guy, and he said, we're having a birthday party for Milton Berle, his 89th, at the Waldorf Astoria, and we'd like you to perform for free, just as a nice tribute to Milton. And I said, okay, because in those days I was auditioning for everything, and you never know who was going to be there. Maybe you'll get a gig out of it.
This is your stand-up comedy.
Stand-up, yeah. And also I revered Milton Berle from my childhood, so I said yes. So I went to the Waldorf, and people were in the audience like Barbara Walters, Regis Philbin, Arlene Dahl, people like that. And all these rich, upper scale people. And I said to Steve, what am I going to do with this group? And then I realized that Milton Berle had a young wife. He was 89, she was 50. To him, that was jailbait. Okay? So once I got that hook, I got up there and I did this whole bit about how, men could get a woman no matter how old they are. And I did a bit about Salman Rushdie, how he was in hiding for 10 years with a fatwa on his head and he still managed to get married 3 times, etc. So I got off the stage. It was a very successful 10 minutes, whatever.
You killed.
Well, whatever. I don't like to brag, but yeah. So Steve said to me, everybody, because he's like, he's always looking for what's not right. So he said everyone was laughing except Barbara Walters. So I said to him, well, look, so what? I said, I'm not going to work for Barbara Walters. P.S. A few months later, I get a call that she had this show, The View, and would I please come in and audition for her.
So Barbara Walters was in the audience the night you performed for
Yes,
Uncle
right.
Milty. So Milty has a special...
Milton has a special place in my heart, and then Regis Philbin said that she said to him, who is that woman? I heard this later, and he said, don't you know her? She's Joy. She's very funny. No, I never saw her before.
Well, let's talk about The View a little bit. So in your 12th season of The View, how do you keep it fresh? I mean, there's a lot of pressure. You got to be tuned in every day.
Yeah.
How do you keep it fresh?
Well, I think that the concept of the show is inherently fresh because every day it's about what's in the newspapers.
But I mean for you.
Oh, for me?
Yeah, how do you get up every morning and deliver the goods the way you need to?
People often ask me, what kind of research do we do? But I don't need to research exactly the way you would if you were writing a theme paper. I'm very much the political junkie, and so I watch a lot of politics, and I'm interested in all that sort of thing. And then pop culture, which is not my forte, but I'm sort of interested in the sociological aspect of Britney Spears, for instance. And so when they'll give me information in the morning about her, and then I'll create an opinion or some kind of a point of view based on my own life, my own experience as a parent, my own experience as a person in the industry, and then we go from there. So that's it. And then, I'm a comic, so you're always trying to keep it funny and fresh.
What about your personal routine? In other words, to have the energy you need every day, what goes into that?
Coffee, like 2 gigantic mugs in the morning, basically. Otherwise, I would not be able to function.
You think so? Pre-show, 2 mugs of coffee.
2 mugs of coffee when I wake up in the morning. If I don't have that, I'm really like a little bit out of it.
You had some, obviously you've had some today.
Yeah.
You know, when I talk to you about my book, we've known each other a long time.
Yes.
I really think of Joy Behar as a woman who made her dream come true. I mean, there was a little girl performing for everybody. It was a long, difficult, circuitous route to make that dream come true. What ultimately did you draw upon yourself to make it happen in the way you made it happen?
I think what I drew upon was desperation because, and perspiration probably, but it was like I always wanted to be a comedian because I was funny as a kid. I used to make the Fuller Brush Man laugh, and you know, remember those days when the Fuller Brush Man used to come to your house?
Door, sure.
He used to say, "This kid's like Jerry Lewis," and I'd be like jumping around like a crazy kid, you know. And but I happened to have been in a generation that really was not going to go out there and stand in front of people and make them laugh as a female. I mean, there was Phyllis Diller, who was, you know, dressed crazy, but she was doing a wonderful, wonderful thing, I always thought. And Joan Rivers kind of was out there, Toady Fields, they were there. But I didn't identify with really any of them particularly. The person that I identified with as a kid, as a young person, was Robert Klein. I thought that he and I were similar, that he had a style about him that I thought it was similar to the way I would do it. And also a woman named Jean Carroll, whose husband used to be a big muckety-muck at the Friars Club. And she was a wonderful comedian on the Ed Sullivan Show when I was a kid.
How did the desperation manifest itself in like your behavior, in whether
The desperation?
Yes. In other words, you're desperate to either make money or have...
Right. I was desperate to make money, and that was my great motivator because I was a high school English teacher. That really wasn't working out that well. And then I got divorced, and I was working at Good Morning America trying to get into the TV world. That was not working out.
You were secretary then.
I was a receptionist, please, not a secretary.
Sorry.
I was a receptionist. Good Morning America, Good Morning America. And people would call me with their annoying, you know, where's Joan London? I'd be, who? I don't know, and I don't care. I was really a very difficult receptionist. And so it took me a long time to get promoted to a secretary. But I had a master's degree in English. So I mean, how can I explain that? It's like you're an overachiever and an underachiever all at the same time.
Well, what was the match that set it off for you?
I got fired. That's what happened. I got fired. I got divorced. I had a near-death experience in 1979, and by 1982, it all came to a crescendo. The divorce, the near-death, and the firing. It was like, freedom's just another word for nothing left to lose. Comedy is just another word for nothing left to lose in my case. And so I was thrust out there on unemployment insurance, and with a child. And I said, you know what? Why don't you just do it now? And then I had a therapist also at the time, and she said to me, you know, Joy, when you really know what you're going to do, the obstacles will disappear. And she was right. And I just got on stage, and I got up in front of 3 drunks from New Jersey one night, 4 drunks from Minnesota the next night, 1 o'clock in the morning, 6 o'clock in the afternoon, whenever and wherever I could do it. And I started to hone my craft.
You know, that is a really wonderful line, though. When you really know what you want to do,
the obstacles
in your path will disappear. With that in mind, somebody watching now who has the talent, they feel, has a dream, but it's drifting away from them. What do you say to them to go capture that dream?
Well, you know that line from, oh my God, the Patti LuPone show, Gypsy. Got the dream, yeah, but not the guts. Well, you have to have the guts, and I only really had the guts when I had to have the guts. You know, it's really, I was not driven the way some people are driven in the industry. If I was as driven as that, I would have started when I was 20, but I wasn't really. So the guts came with the desperation, as I said, and the need to make money at it. And I was always funny at parties, and that seemed to satisfy me while I was married. You know, you're married, you have a kid, you have friends, you have parties, you're distracted. And then when I was thrust out there without all of my pilings, then I had to just go for it. So, I mean, I don't know what advice to give somebody who wants to be a comedian. I think that it's a rough...
somebody who wants to make a dream come true.
A dream.
Yeah.
Well, the other thing is once you hit 40, I mean, it becomes very clear to you that your days are finite. You know that it's not going to go on forever. When you're in your 20s, you say, I'm going to live, just don't think about it. Yeah. Like, the movie Fame, I'm going to live forever. No, you're not. Yeah. At 40, you know you're not. So you have to make a decision. Do you want to be 75 on the bed saying, "Oh, I should have gotten on stage that day. I should have written to the congressman. I should have. I could have." Yeah. And you know, it's a cliche at this point that the things that you regret are the things that you didn't do, not the things that you did do. So you have to have a good talk with yourself, and you have to be prepared to fail. You've got to be prepared to fail.
And learn from that failure.
Yeah, and you have to be prepared to succeed, which is very tricky. Because sometimes when you succeed, the fear of success is about changing the status quo. You know, sometimes people feel scared. They're scared to lose weight. Because if they lose weight, maybe their husband will be mad. Or maybe men will look at them in a different way. Yeah. A lot of women have that. That's the fear of success.
That's right. There was a great book on that many years ago called Fat is a Feminist Issue.
Oh, yes, I remember that book.
It's an interesting book. Now, let's get back to stand-up. Just in general sense, how is your stand-up different now after 12 seasons on The View?
My stand-up? Well, I've been at it 25 years now, stand-up.
But how has your television
The View?
life affected your work on stage as a
I think
comedian?
I've become more political on stage. I have more of an interest in discussing politics. And I also talk about the people that I've met. I've expanded my repertoire because my life in the past 12 years, I mean, I talk about guests we've had on The View now.
Well, let's talk about some of it. Let's talk some of your favorite celebrities who've been on. I mean, you've had the world has passed through that couch.
Yeah.
Who are some of your real favorites who've been on?
Well, you know, I mean, I like sometimes foreign actors. Like we've had Vanessa Redgrave and we've had Judi Dench, people like that, you know, come on, and Helen Mirren. But my all-time favorite was Catherine Deneuve, who came on.
The face of France.
She was the face of France. And I have a whole bit about how, comparing her to my Aunt Rose. I have it been in my act. Sometimes I do it. It's a slideshow of pictures of the two of them and what they have in common. And she is was an enigmatic character that came to the show, and I could not believe that I was actually in the green room with her.
Yeah.
Now I'm not a celeb stalker, and I'm not that impressed that much with celebrities. You know, they're like me in a way. We all tried and did our best, and we're doing what we do. But Catherine Deneuve, I mean, she was so exotic to me when I all those years of watching The Last Metro and every other film, you know.
The Belle de Jour. What about, did you feel intimidated interviewing her, or were you your normal Joy Behar self?
No, I was my normal self, because once they're with me, and although I was stalking her, she said, "Is she a lesbian?" And I said, "No."
Hey, how about men?
How about men?
George Clooney?
Clooney is quite fun. He's a lot of fun. Yeah. I liked him very much. And I used to love his aunt, Rosemary Clooney. Rosemary Clooney was one of the greats. She's underrated. Rosemary Clooney, to me, is as good as Frank Sinatra. You know, I mean, I don't know why anybody would think that she wasn't. I think she's definitely as good as Tony Bennett.
Rosemary Clooney had one of the most beautiful voices. I saw her perform
Incredible.
At least 15 times. You know, I love music.
At Feinstein's, I've seen her many times.
She opened Feinstein's.
Yeah, wonderful singer.
Let's see if I can come up with that. Tom Cruise.
Cruise, you know, we had him on after he jumped over Oprah's couch. So, you know, we said to him, "Come on, jump over the couch," and he did it. And then I handcuffed him. I handcuffed him to the seat. So he was a player. He had
a good time?
Yeah, you know, that's all we really ask is for somebody to come to play and have fun and be easygoing and not be difficult.
Joy, what was the roughest patch, you know, in 12 seasons?
With The View?
No, yeah, for you personally, where you're getting up in the morning and it didn't feel the same as other days. The roughest patch in terms of the people, the characters, what was going on, the publicity, all that stuff.
Well, we've had so many different kinds of people. You know, last year we had Rosie O'Donnell, and there was a big hoopla over that.
Right.
Then Star Jones was there, and last year or 2 years ago she left, and she left on a day that we didn't think she was going to leave. So we were like, "What? Do you leave it? You know, today?" We thought it was Thursday, and I always find those surprising moments the best of the show. Sometimes, you know, the way it sort of turns on you.
But there's never been a time when you thought, "Oh yeah, what are we getting into here? I don't feel like going to do the show today. It's too much in the spotlight, too much, you know, junk going on behind."
Yeah, I think that has happened probably, but I really can't say that overall it's been like that. Overall, you say to yourself, "Hey, who's got a job like this?" You know, I wake up in the morning, I have my 2 mugs of coffee, I read the New York Times, I watch, you know, CNN, and I don't have to put hair and makeup on or anything. I just go schleppity, and they put me together, and then I get out and talk, and they pay me for that. Yeah. you know.
You should be investigated for this job.
I should be investigated.
What about, what
Especially, compared to the jobs that I had. I mean, I'm not coming from a privileged background. I've worked in a mental hospital, which prepared me for The View in a certain way. I was an employment counselor for the New York State Employment Agency. I was a high school English teacher in Rhode Island and Lower East Side, Long Island. And then I worked at Good Morning America. I've had a lot of different jobs. So compared to all those jobs, this is easy. And it pays better.
Here's something I was actually wondering about when it was going on. When you and Star Jones had, really locked horns, it happens on the air or it happens on the phone. What's it like backstage with her? Before
with Star?
The next day, like when you've really had it out with somebody on the air, your coworker, and then you're backstage with them after the show and the next morning, a sense of intimidation at all?
With Star, no, I never really. We were just sort of, passing ships in the night to a large extent, I mean, we were not close friends, but we were amiable with each other. And even now, people ask me about Elizabeth and me, whether we fight or whether we mean it.
Political opposites.
Political opposites, and it gets heated. I don't take any of that personally. It's a job, and Elizabeth is a very sweet kid, and I like her very much. And so when we argue on the air, that we're doing our job, and she's doing hers, and I'm doing mine. And so after the show's over, we're laughing about something else.
Any other celebrities you want to talk about? Just who are kind of fun, or maybe something from your
Well, Danny DeVito was fun. He came out and he seemed a little bit, I don't know if he was drunk or not. He says no. He said he was up all night with his limoncello and sat on Rosie O'Donnell's lap. That was fun.
Have you ever had a limoncello?
No, that's not my thing.
2 sips of a limoncello will knock you over.
I don't care for citrus fruit. I don't like lemons, and I don't play the cello. I don't know what it is, and I don't care.
Anyone else comes to mind? Or just another really great moment. One you think, well, when I'm 90 years old, I'm going to remember this day of work.
Well, I remember the days that there was big conflict. Those are the days that you really remember. And I don't know. I mean, it's, the day that Rosie had a fight with Elizabeth. And I kept saying, don't we have a commercial? And the day that Star Jones left, things like that. And the day that Meredith left was very touching and upsetting to me because I really love Meredith and I miss her. So, things like that I think I'll always remember.
Value of comedy in our society. How do you define what it means to our society to have such a sense of humor as we have in America?
Oh, well, I mean, I can't say that I'm a neurosurgeon. I can't say that I'm a cancer specialist saving lives. So comedy is not on that level of greatness in the world. I'm not a scientist, but I do believe that at the end of the day, life can be tragic. Because of what we said before and how finite, the fact that it's over at some point. And what can you do but laugh? And, to have the ability to draw on that. And I think that, but I was very much loved. So I think that instead of seeing that as tragic, I decided to make fun of it, which to her delight, worked. And it worked for the rest of the family, too. I mean, anything that I thought was fairly tragic, I would make a joke about it. So it's a kind of a reaction formation sometimes. I would go to wakes as a kid. They took me to wakes all the time. And I would then, after the wake, go home with them and tell them all the things that I saw at the wake and have them on the floor. So it was a way of dealing with, things that as a child are a little bit scary.
Do you think that on any level, last question, because Charles Sprouse began really playing the piano and composing to please his parents because he thought they were sickly and sad.
They were sickly and sad.
Do you think on any level you were just trying to make your mother happier than she was?
Yeah, I think so. I think I was trying to make everybody happy, and I was always looking for ways to probably get attention on myself too. I was a kid, and I just think that some people, when they have situations in the family that are not exactly like the Beavers, they hide in their room. They read, they close the door, other people take drugs, other people drink. I thought I participated in the family, and I drew them into the whole situation, and I think I made it better for them, to tell you the truth.
And you're doing it 5 days a week now?
That's my role in life, is to, you know, and I notice at the table at the View, if there's a fight going on, a real fight, I will almost automatically jump in the middle of it like a referee and say, hey, come on, and make a joke. And that was my role in the family, too. If my father and mother were arguing, I'd go right in with a joke. So people are, you know, I always say, whatever you are at 10 years old is what you will be when you're older.
Well, Joy, I'm glad you were that at 10, so I can thank you now for everything you're doing and making laughs and good, astute judgments.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure seeing you again.
Thanks, Joy.
Okay.